We will be finding the inverse of a function using the following steps. Let's see here. The first step, you're going to change your f of x to y. Second, switch x and y. Third, solve for y. And then finally, you're going to rewrite y equals as the inverse of f of x. So when you see this symbol, it's pronounced or is read inverse of f of x. So we're going to use this first example here and follow step by step to see what happens. So it tells me to change my f of x to a y. And that's what I'm doing in my very first step. You'll find that you can eventually skip that and just automatically go to step 2. Second thing it says is now I want you to switch your x and your y. So I'm going to take my x and I'm going to move it in front of the equal sign, and my y, I'm going to move it under the cube root symbol. So I have x is equal to cube root of y plus 2 minus 3. Now the third step asks me to solve for y. So that means I'm going to move everything from the right-hand side to the left-hand side, which starts with my constant. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides to get rid of that 3. And now I'm left with x plus 3 is equal to the cube root of y plus 2. Recall prior knowledge, and to get rid of that cube root, you understand that you have to cube both sides. Now in my class, we are not going to expand this out. So we're going to leave it as x plus 3, the quantity of x plus 3 raised to the third power. So the purpose of doing that was to get rid of that cube root, and we're still trying to get y by itself because we're still in step number 3. So I have x plus 3 raised to the third power is equal to y plus 2. Y is still not by itself, so I have to continue moving things. So I'm going to move the 2 over by making it a negative 2 because that's the inverse. Do not try to combine the 3 and the negative 2. The 3 is inside of parentheses, so keep up with your parentheses. All right, so my next step is going to be x plus 3 raised to the third power minus 2 is equal to. Now this step, I can go ahead and change this y based off of my last step, which asked me to rewrite that y equals as the inverse of f of x. Now, if you have a problem with it being written like with the inverse on the right-hand side, you can rewrite it and put it on the left-hand side of the equal sign, but I'm okay with it like this. That's the inverse. All right, so that's all you're doing. You're just following these steps. Let's do one when we have an exponent. So I'm still following those same steps. I'm going to move up to give myself some room. First thing I want to do is I want to change my y and change my f of x to y, or like I said earlier, you can just go ahead and swap those out. You know f of x means y. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to have the x, 3, and instead of having x, I changed this to y, minus 8. So everything else I'm writing exactly how I see it. Now I have to solve for y, which means I'm going to start with my constant by subtracting 5 on both sides. And then I have x minus 5. I'm going to put it in parentheses just because it goes together. Is equal to 3 raised to the y minus 8 power. This is where you have to recall when it's in exponential form, what do you do? You have to change it to log form. So everything you've been learning is for a purpose. So we're going to rewrite this as log. The base of the exponent is going to be the base of your log. So log base 3. And the reason I put this in parentheses is because this entire value goes with this log. So keep that in mind. Is equal to, and then y minus 8. Y is not by itself. So in order to get it by itself, I have to add this 8 on both sides. What you're going to try to do is combine those. You cannot, because x minus 5, again, goes with log. That is the value for that. So the way that you would write this is you're going to rewrite it And I see that I have a problem under it. It's getting kind of close. So I'm going to move it over here. Instead of having y at this point, just go ahead and write it as your inverse of f of x is equal to, and then you can write that information in log base 3 of x minus 5 plus 8 is on the outside of that parentheses. So keep up with your parentheses. That's my inverse. Okay. Now, actually, I do want to show you a shortcut. What you will eventually see is when we're talking about inverses, I already know, or I should know, the base of my exponent is going to be the base of my log. So I just did an inverse in my answer. I also should know, what's going to happen is my exponent will now become my value, but the difference will be, I will swap out the numbers. So this number will swap here and it will change sign. So instead of a positive 5, it's going to be a negative 5. This number will swap here, but instead of it being a negative 8, it will be a positive 8. You will see the pattern the more that you do these problems. For now, I need you to actually show the work. Don't just try to jump and do the inverse of everything, but that is a shortcut. Or that's a way of double checking to make sure you're on the right track. So now using this problem, we're going to use the same steps. We're going to switch out. I'm just skipping to step 2. This should be a y. We're going to swap it out. So x is on the side, the left-hand side of the equal sign, log base 3. And then instead of x on this side, we change that to y plus 6 minus 14. So let's just say I was trying to jump ahead and I wanted to do the inverse. So I wonder what my answer should be. If I am doing the inverse of a log, I know it's going to be an exponent. I know my exponent has the same base, so I know it's going to be 3. And then my value is now going to be my exponent, except I have to swap these numbers and the signs. So that means it's going to be x, change the sign of this. Well, actually, let me keep up with my undoing. So it's going to be x. This is going to switch, but it's going to change the sign. Plus 14. This is my prediction of what my answer is going to look like. And then I'm going to take this part and I'm going to swap it here, except I'm going to change the sign. This is, again, my prediction. Let's see if I'm on the right track. And I'm saying that this is going to be the inverse. Please write neater. Don't be like me. Okay, so let's see if we end up with that answer. What I need to do is I am going to add 14 on both sides, which is going to leave me with x plus 14 is equal to log base 3 of, and again, you see I'm keeping up with my parentheses. It's because people are going to try to mix these numbers together. You can't do that. This is all one item. Okay, so at this point, it's in log form, but I don't want it in log form. I have to take the inverse, which is an exponent. So I am going to rewrite it and follow my arrows. My base is exactly the same. So it's going to be 3 raised to the, I should have put that in parentheses, but no, actually I shouldn't. You don't have to. This is raised to x plus 14, and it's set equal to the entire y plus 6. Y is not by itself, so I have to subtract 6 on both sides. You cannot subtract those two. One is an exponent, one is a whole number or a constant. So I have 3 raised to the x plus 14 minus a big 6 is equal to this y. I can just rewrite it as the inverse of f of x. So how did I do? I got the same answer. I told you it was going to work. That's just doing the inverse for each thing one at a time. But again, I don't want you to do that for now. I want you to actually show the work, but that's how you check your work. And then finally, let's just say we had a rational number. So what we would want to do in this case is first start undoing. So I'm going to subtract 3 on, well, sorry, first thing you have to do, don't do that, is you have to swap these out, the x's and the y's. So I'm going to have a x is equal to 3 over y plus 1 plus 3. Now I want to subtract 3 on both sides to get rid of that. And I am left with x minus 3 is equal to 3 over y plus 1. Well, to get y by itself, I'm going to have to multiply the denominator, y plus 1, on both sides. I know it's kind of awkward to do it this way, but this is what's going on. All right, so once I get rid of that, I'm left with y plus 1 times x minus 3. And what I see is that I have an x and a y on the same side. I want y by itself. So what I want to do is I want to divide both sides by what's stopping it from being by itself. For now, I can only divide the x minus 3 to get rid of that. And then I'm left with y plus 1, different color, okay. Y plus 1 is equal to 3 over x minus 3. And you guessed it. Now, what I need to do is subtract that 1 on both sides. This 1 does not go with either of those numbers. It's by itself. So it's going to look like my final answer is y. Well, not y. We're going to change that. I might as well change it right now. It's going to be the inverse of f of x is equal to 3 over x minus 3, all subtracted by 1. So that is going to be my final answer when I'm trying to find the inverse of a function. Go ahead, subscribe, and thumbs up. Have a great one.